Hugo, thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And so, Hugo, I got introduced to you recently, and I thought we would start the podcast today. Just want to ask you a few questions, primarily about how did you, what was your journey? How did you get into insurance?
Started at a small, office in Austin, Texas, just looking for a job, and I ended up liking it because I was able to help clients, put them in a better situation. It's a relationship environment with live clients, and after that, I joined a different company that, we had a lot more accounts, a lot more opportunities, and ended up getting licensed. It was a refinance company that did auto loans. And so it was a very easy, warm lead, warm account to help the client out more. So I've just been in insurance for a long time, and I love it because and normally I get to help a client out and put them in a better situation.
Okay. Now, when you were growing up, was insurance on your radar, or was that kind of an industry that you stumbled into?
Just stumbled into it. I did a lot of previous jobs, manufacturing, military as well, but so just stumbled into it.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like insurance and car sales have a little bit of some parallel there. That unless you maybe have a family business, I don't know that a lot of us grow up thinking, "Hey, I want to sell cars or I want to sell insurance." But it can end up being a really great career. So, how long have you been with Texas One?
With this company for about a year now,
Okay.
we got uh, acquired by them in the last year. But insurance is what we've been doing for a very long time. But how we do insurance in Texas One is a little different because it's more of the client has an immediate need for the insurance at the dealership, and we're there to help out. And whenever we're in there, it's a great experience for the client.
All right. So, tell me about this business model. Where has Texas One always done it this way, or was this kind of like a new model that the team came up with and was like, "Hey, let's get into the dealerships themselves."
No, so Texas and Florida One has always done it this way. We've been big dealers, statewide, and ideally, we are an insurance verification team inside the dealership, and we are part of the process, part of the verification process, and we make sure that the client goes home that day with the right coverage, and the dealer and the lender's protected as well.
Okay. Yeah, when I heard about it, I thought this is pretty fascinating because I don't know, it's very unique, and I really love the concept of it. So, let me ask this. Obviously, you weren't there day one, but I'm sure you know some of the history of the company. How did this concept get validated? Like, how was it that was there one dealership at one point in time that took a chance on this, saying, "Hey, let's put a kind of agency within the dealership and give it a try"? How did that come to be?
We would visit certain locations, and the GM, the GSM, right, just was kind of skeptical about it at first, and really told us, "Hey, sit here for the day. Let's see what you can do." And the agent, our experience, their license, they know what to do. So we were able to get the process started right away. All we need is one monitor, access to internet, right, the computer, and we use a rater, so it's a tool that we can see 15 different rates all at once for the client. And so we don't work for company A, B, or C. We work for the client, for the make sure that we can help the dealership out, and ideally, we just want to place the client at the best situation, for their needs.
Okay. Now, do you find that there are certain insurance companies that tend to be the most competitive, or does it kind of like rotate?
It rotates a lot. You know, the zip code where the client lives matters, their age, their driving history, and of course the vehicle that they're buying.
Okay.
Right. Sometimes the vehicles get a discount because they have more safety features nowadays, right? The lane assist or the brake assist. But at the same time, all these safety features do make the vehicles more expensive because they have more technology on them. clients don't understand that, and so when they don't shop around and just add their car to the to the current policy, normally they're surprised and they're frustrated because they didn't realize the price of the vehicle was going to be that much to insure it.
Okay. So then again, I'm going a little off topic here, but I actually find insurance to be quite fascinating because there was once upon a time I had the same provider for many, many years, probably 10, 12 years. And then I moved. And for whatever reason, when I moved, it triggered this like massive increase in my, policy.
Sure.
And so I shopped it for the first time and ended up getting, a significantly lower rate than I had even been previously paying. So how often when if a client comes in to one of the dealerships that you're in, they buy a car and your agent goes out and talks to them, maybe shops their insurance. How often do you find that they can get a better rate through a different carrier?
I think one out of every four clients is a pretty good number. When they have insurance, it makes it a little bit easier because they get more credits, more discounts, and so more companies want their business, right?
Hmm.
But one out of every four clients, we're able to put them in a better situation with and save their money that day compared to keeping their current existing insurance company.
Okay. So about 25% of the time, it
Mhm.
ends up being a better scenario for them. And then, is it common for you in all of the dealerships that you're in to have people that are uninsured when they're coming in to buy a car, or is that maybe more location based and brand based?
It is location based. If it's a used car lot or franchisee car lot, right? In Houston, for example, we have a big market where a lot of clients don't have insurance that day, whether they're young or the first time in the country.
Hmm.
And so, being that we're a broker, we have options like that. Some companies don't take individuals with driver license. Some don't take them if they have state IDs, but there's important to have options, and we do.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Walk me through the process of setting up a kind of little in-house agency within a dealership. What does that look like?
So all we need is a desk and access to the internet. We provide the computer or the laptop, and once we have a setup a place in the dealership, we can get the client in front of us, right? And with information like their vehicle they're buying, their name, date of birth, their address, we can get a quote done in 5 minutes.
Okay.
So it's nothing too complicated. It's something that they probably already had in the past, insurance, or they have it today. And so we just want to give them an option.
Okay. So if I was a dealership principal and I said, "Hey Hugo, I want your team, I want to bring you guys in. You're up and running same day."
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's nothing there's no licensing needed because the agent that we're going to put in there already has the right experience and the right license in order to get, selling that same day.
Okay. So essentially, if there's a free desk, what I'm hearing is that there's zero overhead at all for the dealership.
Correct.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I think there's not many things that you can implement in a business that isn't going to cost you something. I mean, in this case, you would lose a desk, but if it's open anyway, then why not? Why do this? So then, obviously, you're in there helping. You're running your business in the sense that you're hopefully going to be switching people, their policies or maybe signing up new people. But what is really the benefit to the dealership beyond just having that kind of extra service available to their clients?
So we are able to give them guaranteed revenue
Hmm.
based on the volume of the cars they sell on a monthly basis.
Okay.
So the bigger the dealership, they get a guaranteed revenue no matter what happens from the agent side. We also guarantee that even if the client doesn't buy an insurance policy from us, maybe if they keep their State Farm or they keep their Liberty Mutual or Allstate, right? That's okay. We still want to make sure that the right comp and collisions on there, the right lien holder on there, the right binds in there. So we absorb all the liability. So if there's an accident a few days from the client bought the vehicle and the coverage is wrong, it falls back on us. not on the sales guy, not on the GM, not on the dealership, because we are an insurance verification team. Part of our job is make sure that the client leaves with the right coverage, even if it's not our coverage sometimes.
Okay.
And that's important.
Interesting. So if you, even if you're not maybe helping them get a new policy, you can still, could you still help somebody like update their policy if it's a,
Absolutely.
interesting.
Yes, whether it's with whatever company it is, because our team is a licensed agent, so we feel confident that we can do that the right way and still get the dealership the binder, right? Because if the client leaves, it gets much harder every day that goes by for that client to get you the binder that you need, showing the comp and collision.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, anybody that's ever worked in a dealership knows that once the deal is done and the client has their new car, their interest in helping you in any way, whether that's getting you an insurance
Yeah,
ID card or getting you that second key that they owe you, I mean, they're just not interested in anymore, right? Because to them, the
correct.
most exciting part of the process is over. So, well, that's pretty cool because I can tell you that my dealership, I'm sure as well as any other, one of the pain points that you're always going to have are getting those policies updated. Um, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in recent years, it's gotten more difficult because it used to be that we as a dealership could essentially call on behalf of a client and update just about anybody's policy.
Correct.
And we really can only do that with a few companies anymore. They want to either maybe speak to a broker or talk to the client themselves, which can sometimes be difficult if they're not physically present at the store with us.
Correct. The guidelines have changed. I think there's a lot of fraud there, and the companies got tired of paying on it probably.
Sure.
So they nowadays they want to make sure that it's the name insured is on there, right? Which means it's the owner of the policy. They don't like that a kid calls or a family member, right? It's just not right.
Gotcha. So, all right. So far, I mean, this is pretty wild, really, if you think about it. There's no overhead to the dealership. You can go in and you can get going day one, and you're also going to pay the dealership to be there. So basically,
Absolutely.
you're not paying per policy. You're just paying essentially a flat rate based on the volume of the store. So a dealership is just getting revenue from you on a monthly basis and having an insurance broker in the dealership physically.
Correct.
Okay, so then what hurdles do you have getting dealerships on board with this? Because I'm not really seeing or hearing very many drawbacks here.
So sometimes the dealerships are just very corporate in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and they say they have red tape, blue tape, black tape, and they just don't want to even talk to us, or they say the owner's never available, or someone else make the decision in a different state, different building, right? But overall, the dealerships that I've visited, my partners, we say hi to the sales reps. The sales reps love us because we're able to help them sell a car, right?
Yeah.
The client needs insurance. And sometimes they call us over the phone and we could do it over the phone and send them the binder over the phone. Whenever that happens, we do pay referrals
Yeah.
to the sales guys,
Okay.
gift cards, specific amount, and we go and pay them in person. And there's a benefit of doing that because we get to see them visual and just get to experience more of a dealership vibe with them.
Okay.
But mhm.
Very interesting. So you, for a dealership like us, we do a ton of out-of-state business, and even a lot of our in-state business is remote. I would say that maybe 30 to 40% of the time is the client actually coming into the dealership to complete the deal. So are the benefits the same with the client not coming in? Are you still able to handle all of this over the phone? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we are licensed in 40 states, so we can do business for East and West Coast, no matter where you have. And each state has different insurance guidelines and insurance limits. So, being that we're brokers like that, we can advise on the right coverage for the right state, make certain recommendations if the
Mm-hmm.
client maybe doesn't have enough coverage, right? Like Texas, for example, Property damage base minimum is 25,000. If you buy a new car that's 45,000 and you only have 25,000 property damage and there's an accident, part of the vehicle is not going to be protected by the insurance company.
Wow.
So it's important to understand the market of the vehicle so that we can advise the client on, hey, you don't have the right coverage. I recommend this to protect yourself better. Protect your brand new vehicle that you buy.
Okay. Very. This is very cool. I'm just imagining in my head. Again, I don't know why this has always been a struggle, but there are just some salespeople that have a very hard time getting the insurance portion of a deal done before time of delivery,
Yeah,
and it's for us, we have our policy is that a car does not leave without an updated policy, for multiple reasons. And consumers a lot of the times will give us the whole, oh well, my insurance follows me, right? I've got 30 days to update it, and it's like that's all well and good, but I can tell you, I know plenty of dealerships, plenty of stories that I've heard over the years of people that left, and then fast forward a year, 2 years, their policy never got updated, right? And then what do you think happens, right? There's a car accident, and that car that they're driving literally is not even on their policy. So, a
correct.
real nightmare scenario. So,
Yes, it's a lot of dealerships out there allow the client to leave. They say they give them 3 days to get that added right, but things happen, weather, accidents, and you just never know. Um, and whenever the client has their own policy, whether they're buying a car from another state or they're buying it in cash, maybe, or they have whatever company they want to keep, that's fine. Our goal at the BXI dealership is to make sure we help them add it, the lien holder, get the binder, and then we already have the contact information at that point, right? We know when their current policy expires because we did a quote on it possibly, right? Or we saw their ID card, or we got the binder with the updated proof of coverage. Well, we're able to follow up months down the line and say, hello, Mr. Smith, you bought that BMW 4 months ago. Hope everything's going well. We couldn't help you then. Would you like a new quote now that your policy is going to renew? So even if we don't help them initially, we still make an attempt months down the line.
okay, that's awesome. So, a lot of positives here for the dealership side. Again, I'm trying to part of the not to say that I have like a massive platform by any means, but it's a growing one, and I feel like a solution like this has a lot of benefits to everybody. And I'm all about, I want to be talking with people and partnering with people that are value adders, and this to me is a huge value add. So on top of the things we've already talked about, which are the obvious benefits to the customers of a dealership, and the immediate, the obvious, hey, you're going to get kind of a monthly check just for you being there. What additional benefits, is a dealership realizing? Like, does it affect their process in any way later in the deal? That
So the F&I goes up on average 18%,
okay,
which, it's important to the dealership, right? The dealership wants to sell the gap policy. They want to sell the warranty, the extended products. They want to sell the product that covers the leather inside, the paint on the exterior, right? And want to add that to the payment, to the loan, right? And some of the clients, once they get their updated insurance premium, they're not happy.
right.
So by us being in the dealership, we are talking to the finance manager and the sales rep, and I'm, hey, this is what's going on. This is the offer that we have for them. Why don't you find out, or I can find out what their policy cost them, right? Because if there's a chance that we can offer them a better policy, we can at least explain that to the client. If we can save them money, then, then the dealership can add the gap. The
Hmm.
dealership can add the warranty product, which is important to the dealership. They make the extra money like that, right? So every dealership that we're in, minimum maybe goes up 18%. The dealership F&I.
Now, how long have you all been measuring that? Like, what's the data sample there?
15 years.
Wow. Okay. So that's not just like anecdotal over the last, because I'm sure a lot of people might say, oh, well, that's just during the COVID times, but no, 15 years,
Correct.
that's a lot of data. Okay.
Absolutely.
That's pretty amazing. And so, I talk a ton about transparency, and I truly believe that, with each passing year, dealerships that refuse to be transparent with consumers are slowly going to die off or be forced to change. And, how do you believe that this helps with transparency in a car buying process for a dealer?
So as a sales rep, right, you're there, you're excited that you're showing the client a car. At some point in the conversation, you have to ask, how, we got to update your insurance. Do you have insurance, right? And whether it's yes, they have it or no, I don't have it, the sales rep that sells a car doesn't know the insurance language, doesn't understand it. So they get to pass that off to a professional at the dealership that helps them with the whole process. So the sales rep has one thing less to do that they don't have to worry about because they're not insurance professionals, right?
Yeah.
And for those 15, 20, 30 minutes that we have the client, the sales rep could maybe be making a phone call ride or at least pop up on the lead, maybe helping out another client. There's a lot going on at the dealership that the GMs ask for the sales reps, right? But if they got to sit there and they help the client out with the insurance for 30 minutes, that's one less opportunity that they have at crack at.
Yeah. Yeah. I hadn't even thought of that. But yes, we're fortunate that at a Mercedes-Benz dealership in the Midwest, we generally don't have very many consumers that are uninsured.
Yeah.
And usually our consumers are already, they're pretty well versed in getting their policies updated. But there are times where I've seen a salesperson, get like they're out of commission for 45 minutes trying to get a policy updated. And they're sitting there with the client, and they're totally unable to do anything during that period of
Yeah.
time. So I hadn't even thought about that time benefit there. That's pretty cool. So
So the dealership gets to gain some time back.
yeah, exactly, and that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't necessarily think about, on a daily basis, is how valuable is your time to you, and if you're doing X, then you can't be doing ABC, right?
Absolutely.
So, you're the agents that are in there. How many days a week are they in the dealership? What kind of hours are they working?
So we're there every day a dealership is open.
Okay.
So in Florida, for example, dealerships are open 7 days a week. We're there 7 days a week. So technically, our offices are open 7 days a week, as well. If the dealership closes at 9, then the agent is there at noon, our lunch, somewhere between when it's slow, and we're there until the last deal.
Wow.
So if the client comes in at 8:30, financing takes 2 hours plus the test drive and the paperwork and the insurance. It could be 10:30, 11 p.m. sometimes.
Wow.
You might have seen it. We see it every week at our dealerships now. And we're there until the last deal. So our insurance team doesn't go home until the last client goes home as well. Last opportunity.
That's amazing. So, this isn't like somebody working 9 to 5. This person is
No,
there.
we're embedded with the dealership.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. And I think that really makes this even cooler because, I think that usually where most of the insurance issues will happen are scenarios where, uh,
6 to 9 p.m.
yeah, exactly, late in the day when there's nobody available to pick up the phone or to help.
Or Saturday. State farmers, all states, they don't work Saturdays. A lot of them don't. And so now you're relying on you getting an updated binder come Monday or Tuesday
Yep.
if they remember to do it.
Wow. That's amazing. Okay, so I think that especially is valuable to the dealerships themselves because maybe the one reservation that I had is that okay, well, if they're not going to be there when you need them most, then how beneficial is it really? But that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's another part to it that let's say it's a used car lot that sells 200 cars a month. That dealership might get clients that have, you know, needs for other companies that aren't the better companies, right?
Right.
If it's a Mercedes-Benz dealership, we work with companies that love Mercedes-Benz, like Liberty Mutual, Progressive, Geico, Travelers. We work with the Allstate company, a State Farm company, and a Farmers company. So any kind of vehicle, even Haggerty. If
Hmm.
someone buys a real expensive car and they only drive it a few hundred miles, like a month, we can insure it.
Okay. That's awesome. So, where do you see Texas One in the next 5 years? Is this a pretty sound business model, or do you see any evolution in what you all do?
So ideally in Texas, we would love to be at 100 dealerships in the next 5 years.
Okay.
This would duplicate, our Florida accounts today, but we want to be in other states. We want to be in Indiana and Pennsylvania and New York and Georgia and in Ohio, Nevada. And so we want to be everywhere that insurance makes sense. Maybe not, Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, maybe not California,
Yeah.
but everywhere else, we
Sure.
want to be. And the individual buying the car is step one, right? Some dealerships have service. So
Hmm.
ideally, we would love to also touch those accounts, right? Normally, they're happy customers. They got a loaner sometimes. Maybe they have a coffee shop inside. So we have done this with other products like a refinance loan, but it could easily be a how was your service at your dealership?
Hmm.
Excellent. Hey, we're partnered with them. We're able to save you money on your auto and home insurance. Would you like a quote?
Hmm.
And the dealership could get more revenue on those accounts.
Hmm. So, right now you're in Texas and Florida.
Yes, sir.
If if a dealer in Ohio or a dealer in Pennsylvania, Indiana, New York was like, "Hey, I'm ready to do this." How do you go about finding the agent that's going to work in the dealership? How quickly could you move in a state that you're not really set up in yet?
So maybe a week or two to do the hiring,
Okay.
and we will get someone that's already experienced, licensed, right,
Mhm.
and that is willing to work those hours,
Yep.
but primarily see the opportunity. Because once we start growing, let's say it's highly Mazda here in Arlington, they have maybe 10 locations, all of DFW. One of our leaders can have to manage those accounts and manage other dealerships, right? So we're able to have a ton of growth for our team, and they love that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is super cool. I'm not normally very impressed by many ideas, but I I love how frictionless this is. I mean, it's like I don't really see why a dealership wouldn't be open to trying this. What is kind of your retention rate in dealers? Are there any dealers that drop out because they just either they need the desk back or they don't see the benefit? I mean, how
It,
often
it,
does it?
it does happen, maybe less than a 5%. And that's because the market changes, meaning a different dealership opened up a mile down the block and maybe they sell the same cars at a discounted price. And so that dealership has less volume. When that happens, then it gets much more difficult for us to have an agent there, pay the agent their salary plus commissions, pay the rent if we don't have enough volume coming in, right? Because um, we base our conversion ratios based off of that volume.
So would you say then when it doesn't work out, it's probably you guys pulling out of the dealership as opposed to the other way around?
Correct,
Yeah.
because the dealerships are getting guaranteed revenue,
Right.
so they want us there as long as possible.
Right. So why would they? Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
I think that's pretty telling, because again, I think there are a lot of dealerships out there that are always willing to try something that they believe will move the needle in a positive direction. And sometimes their minds can change like the wind, right? Or the weather, where hey, let's try this piece of technology. And we're guilty of this too. Not that we're guilty of it, but sometimes we'll bring in a new technology, for example, and we have an expectation that it's going to perform in a certain way. And then after we live with it for a little while, we realize this isn't what we thought it was going to be, and now we have to change course. But what you're saying is that that doesn't really happen with you all. It's you might just say, "Hey, we don't have the volume anymore to make sense to be here."
Great point you bring up. let's say we get in there, an account, a dealership, and 6 months go by, and maybe there's change of GM, change of ownership, which happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Change of finance manager, maybe the market changes. If it doesn't make sense, we just stop the contract the next month. There's no penalty, there's no fees. This is not a year or 2 year contract. There's nothing that the dealer is spending money on, right? So it's a quick, get out if if it doesn't make sense. But normally it helps the dealership, it helps the clients, the sales guys love us, and everyone makes a little extra money.
Pretty cool. This is a very symbiotic relationship. I think that this is definitely one of the more forward-thinking ideas. I'm kind of. I mean, it sounds like so. It's been 15 years that this has been going on. That's really impressive.
More than 20 actually in Florida.
Okay, wow. That's. I feel. I mean, I've heard of sort of this concept very one-off, like maybe a local agent had the idea to do it somewhere, but not kind of on a scale like this. Which this. What I like about this is that this is scalable. So if I were if there's dealerships that are out there that are interested in implementing this, it's not like you all are going to be flying by the seat of your pants trying to figure out how to make this work. It sounds like you're experts at this point in implementing this.
Absolutely. We know what to do from day one. We know what the dealership expects from us and the protection that we want to give them and protect their assets, right? And, we have a support team. We have a call center team. If the client who needs to do something afterwards, we have a staff, not at the dealership, but at a call center that picks the phone and can help the client for the future, right? Whether it's adding the teenager driver, another vehicle, maybe they bought a different vehicle, maybe they're buying a house. So we do home insurance as well. We do motorcycles, you know, the full um, package that we can offer.
Okay, I love it. So I'm live on TikTok right now, and I have a couple of questions coming in, and I think that we've kind of already covered this, but just to reiterate, somebody's asking, what do you require from the dealerships? And it really sounds to me like it's just basically internet access and a place to work. There's not really anything else that you need on a daily basis other than maybe permission to talk with the client.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need a desk. And if we gotta buy a desk, hey man, nothing too complicated there. But we need the internet, of course, because that's how we work with the radar, with the system, with the communications. And we need to be able to talk to a client at some point.
Right.
Maybe not in the first 20 minutes, maybe we're talking to finance, but we want to be able to introduce ourselves and say, hey, do you have insurance? Great. Do you want to add it to your policy? Do you want some options? Hey, you don't have insurance? Great. Let's get some information, quick intake, and then I can get the quote done in the next 5 minutes
Mm-hmm.
and then go from there.
Okay. And then again, we had another question, and we've also kind of talked about this, but they were asking about out-of-state clients. You buy a car in Ohio, but you're registering it, and let's call it, Pennsylvania. You all, or you don't have a problem with handling these out-of-state transactions,
No,
right? Yeah,
no, not all.
yeah,
The reports we pull from the insurance companies, we're able to match the coverage that the client has. And of course, depending on the lender, make sure that the comp and collision is done properly, the lender address is listed on there,
yeah.
and we'll send the proof and the binder directly to the sales rep.
Amazing.
For out of state dealers or dealerships that maybe are smaller, we have a direct dealer line.
Yeah,
So if the client or the sales rep calls that line, there's no welcome to this, press one for English, press two. It rings our dedicated agents at the dealership,
yeah,
and they know it's someone needing insurance at a dealer. They
yeah,
want to keep it simple. They're not asking for all the other products at that point. They're not asking for anything in particular that isn't. Get the deal closed, get it the best price for the client with the right coverage.
yeah. So, and then there was another interesting question. I'm assuming that when you set up in a new dealership, is there probably a little, hand in hand working with the team there to sort of implement a process where the sales team knows to introduce you all at some point so that you're not having an agent sort of awkwardly walk into an office and try, you know what I mean? Is it,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
So once a week, we want to make sure that our team meets the sales reps team for their morning meetings,
yep,
and make sure that we can talk about it then. And normally it's after the test drive,
yep,
right? They already maybe applied, they already got some kind of paperwork done, test drive is done. At that point, depending on the dealer, right, the question has to be asked, who do you have for insurance, right?
right,
And if whatever they say, normally they bring them to our desk or they bring them to our office, and that's where we get involved, right?
gotcha,
Because even at that point, the financing team doesn't want to sign their documents until the proof of insurance is done.
yep, yeah,
Because if not, it's a headache afterwards. We
yep,
know the financing is done, they don't have insurance, and the client sits in the lobby for an hour trying to get insurance,
yep,
and they're not happy at that point.
yep, 100%. So, yeah, so hopefully that, that answers the question to whoever asked it. It sounds like you bring somebody into the dealership, you bring an agent in, and it just is a slight process change to get them involved kind of during the paperwork process.
Absolutely.
Somebody also asked, this is more of just a general insurance question, but how long do you have to update your policy if you were not, if somebody bought a car and didn't have access to an agent like you in the store?
It just varies per company
Mm-hmm.
and per state. Some require it done that same day,
Yep.
like in New York. If you don't update your insurance that day, you lose your registration. They even suspend your driver license.
Yeah. Yeah. New York
In
is tough.
Texas, it's a little bit more flexible. Um, don't want to say dealership name, but I bought two vehicles last year in Texas. The dealership let me leave without any proof of insurance.
Yeah.
They were caught, they didn't need it. I guess they're that big of a dealership, right? But it just varies per company.
Yeah.
So it's not a route.
Yeah, I can tell. I can tell you that any dealership that is, fast and loose or doesn't have a good process defined with insurance, it's just not worth it because I can tell you that if there ends up being a problem, kind of like I explained, if there's an issue after the fact and either the car wasn't covered or things weren't handled properly, I mean, who do you think the client is going to blame, right?
Yeah,
It's going to fall back on the dealership.
of
So,
course.
and so I had another good question. What are kind of the talking points for the salesperson in the dealership? What are they, kind of what are you and your team going over with them? Like, what is the ideal word track for them to say to a client before kind of introducing the agent so that it doesn't come off as maybe weird to that person?
So I think part of it is depending on how the conversation is going, right? If the financing approved, the client seems happy with the car, you gotta let them know, hey, we want to make sure that before you go home today, right, that the car's protected, the bank's protected, right? Do you have insurance today? If they say yes or no, it doesn't matter, right? We still want to be involved and help them out.
Yep. Gotcha.
So it's just at that point we just introduce them to the sales agent, to the insurance agent, or take them to the desk. And we take over from there
Yeah.
completely. The whole process from A to Z. We also get photos of the dealerships. I forgot to mention. So every vehicle that we insure from the dealership, we get photos of the vehicles along with the VIN and the mileage. Things happen where a claim happens a few weeks down the line, and the insurance company wants to know, was the vehicle like that for a dealership or was that done afterwards? So we get photos of every vehicle we insure and we keep them on file in case there's ever a question.
Okay. I like it. Very thorough. So, kind of, last question I'll ask you here, just again, general insurance knowledge, because I think, again, there's always going to be some people that are maybe a little resistant to having to talk to anybody else in a dealership. But I think
Correct.
for me, one of the talking points that comes to mind is, and only because I lived it myself, and so now I make sure to tell people about it, is that insurance is just one of those things that if you're not paying attention to it, you could either have the wrong coverage, you could be paying too much. It's is it a good idea? How often should people be checking to make sure that they've got the proper coverage and that they're not overpaying? It just in
I
general.
think every renewal.
Yep.
So if you have a 12-month policy, check it once a year. a month prior to renewal. And if it's 6 months renewal, check it, a month out.
Yeah.
Insurance has changed nationwide with this, with hurricanes, with snow, with fires, right?
Yep.
And the company right just be with someone for 20 years, one accident, and your price, six, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like shop electricity, maybe groceries, up pressure, ton of up. And if you're okay with showing the company, hey, I'm a good driver, watch my monitor in, my driving habit by having an app on their phone or device in the vehicle, a lot of these companies will give extra 10% discounts
Yeah.
if they're good drivers.
Yeah.
And that's your way isn't pick market or the zip code or the area that you're in.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm hearing is that there's no reason not to be shopping it at least once a year.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So, this is one of those things where I think it's out of sight, out of mind for a lot of people. And there's no worse feeling than, at least there wasn't for me, than realizing, wow, how long, if it hadn't been for that massive renewal increase that was triggered for whatever reason by me moving, I don't know that I would have shopped it. And even when I did, I realized that I had been overpaying for what I thought was a competitive rate. And that bugged me a little bit. So it's, there's really no reason not to check into it.
Yeah,
So,
market shift, and it's just the right thing to do.
yeah, very cool. So, obviously, at the end of when this podcast, we're doing this live right now for TikTok, but tomorrow this podcast will go live, or today if you're watching it on Thursday. But in the show notes, I'm going to have a link to just a very simple form that a dealership can fill out if they want to get in touch with you all. Is there anything else that a dealership needs to know if they're interested in reaching out and kind of starting this conversation with you?
You know, they want to try over the phone first, maybe make a note about it, or we can give them a direct line. Your sales guys can call us directly. If they don't want an actual agent there for now, we can do a test run like that.
Yeah.
And we do it on several dealerships already today, where we can track, how many calls come in, what deals we close. Um, Maybe if they have multiple locations, let us know how many locations they have.
Yeah.
Because then if they want an agent, then it's going to be 4 or 5 agents, right? So we just want to plan accordingly if that's what the next step is.
Okay. Very cool. So, well, Hugo, this has been awesome. I'll end the conversation with just a very general question, which I think is always fun, right? I get asked it all the time. But
Mhm.
if within reason, we're not talking about like supercars here. But if money was no object and you could go out and get your dream daily driver right now, what would it be?
It is the 24 GT63.
Oh, GT63. Awesome.
Hmm.
The 4-door coupe.
Hmm.
Now, and you're
Yeah, I
not
have
just
two
saying that because
kids,
I'm a Mercedes guy,
so I
right?
need the space in the back.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
I have a nice car right now, but it doesn't have all the luxury features.
Okay.
It's a Stelvio Quadrifoglio.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Those are
Black and
fast.
the cover, yes,
Yeah.
very fast. But Mercedes, a lot of nice features and the seats and adjustments, so
Yeah.
something a little nicer.
I like that choice. That's one of the more fun and thoughtful choices. I think that not that there's a huge market for GT63 buyers, but there's more practicality in there than there should be for something with nearly 600
Absolutely.
horsepower, right? So, well, awesome. Well, Hugo, this has been a real pleasure. This is a massive value add in my eyes to any dealership. I see a ton of, I don't see any drawbacks to a dealership giving this a try. And it really sounds like any dealership that implements this, they stick with it because why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah,
But this is
it
a very cool concept and it was really nice to talk with you about it.
Yeah, last thing I wanted to say is our small dealers that maybe have two, three dealerships with us,
Yeah.
um, those accounts, right? We pay them a few thousand, right, a month based on their volume.
Yeah.
Our largest account, $1 million a year.
Wow. Okay. So those are some real numbers. So for dealers that
Yes,
are
absolutely.
wondering real numbers,
Yeah,
we're talking anywhere from a couple $1,000s a month to $1 million a year worth of revenue, and that's just from you being there and helping them with insurance.
absolutely. And the F&I goes up. Don't forget about that.
Yeah, that's tremendous. So that, I mean, again, I think that if a dealership is out there looking for a way to put more money to their bottom line, provide a better experience for their customers, why wouldn't you give this a try? Right? I mean,
Agree.
it's very cool. Well, Hugo, been a pleasure. Any questions that you'd like to ask me before we part ways? Not that this is
What's
really
your
your interview.
Mercedes that you're driving?
Right now, I'm driving the EQS SUV. So,
Nice.
yeah, I didn't think that I'd be into electric cars, but I started driving one just to get familiar with it when they came out.
Sure.
And 3 years later, as a daily driver, I get a demo. I'm fortunate in that, and I just keep picking EQS SUVs. So, the
That's
whole family fits, and I don't have a long commute, so charging is never an issue. But
cool.
yeah. Anyway, they don't sound like an AMG though. I'll say that.
For sure.
So awesome. Well, Hugo, thank you so much. It's been a
Thank
pleasure,
you, Doug.
and I look forward to seeing what dealers take advantage of setting something up with all of you.
Let me know. Reach out, guys. We're ready.
All right. Awesome. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Doug.